Stoics lived long, meaningful lives and learned how to observe and understand people. They believed that the body, including women's bodies, can reveal surprising psychological facts that might challenge common beliefs. Today, we're going to look into the psychology behind some physical traits, specifically women's bodies, and how they might reveal hidden truths. Before we start, make sure you watch the whole video. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or personal experiences. There are 7 parts that are guaranteed to shock you. The first one is about what a small nose means. Have you ever noticed that women with smaller noses seem to have certain traits that make them stand out? It may sound strange, but it's true. For a long time, people have believed that a woman's nose size could correlate with other parts of her body, particularly her intimate anatomy, also known as her six. This idea has stuck around in some modern psychological theories, making people wonder if it's true. The Stoics, people who were really interested in biology and human behavior, probably saw the nose as more than just a part of the face. To them, it could have been a way to learn about a person's overall health, vitality, and even personality traits. Evolutionary perspectives often view a smaller nose as a feminine trait. Society connects smaller noses with a sense of delicacy or fragility, which makes people wonder what this might mean about a woman's intimate anatomy. The link between nose size and body features isn't based on science, but on deep-rooted cultural ideas. Many people believe that a smaller nose is preferable, as it suggests a more refined and compact private area, aligning with the notion that a smaller frame or feature is frequently associated with elegance or nuance. This idea comes from ancient beliefs that different parts of a person's body and face could tell more about their sexuality and body. It's simple to feel safe making these kinds of assumptions. People have always wanted to organize and understand the world. This includes how we understand physical traits, especially when it comes to sexuality and desire. For centuries, people have interpreted a woman's small nose as a symbol of her femininity, signifying her overall softness, elegance, and occasionally the size of her intimate anatomy. It's important to note that this belief varies across cultures. Some cultures highly value a small nose as a sign of beauty and refinement. People often perceived women with smaller noses as possessing delicate, almost ethereal qualities that extended to other parts of their bodies. In these cultures, the nose became a symbol of grace, and people thought it could tell you about a woman's overall physical traits, including the size of her intimate areas. However, it's important to remember that no two women are the same, and while these kinds of physical correlations might appeal to our sense of order and predictability, they don't always hold true. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the significance of observing without hastily drawing conclusions. Even if a woman has a small nose, that doesn't mean her body will fit into a certain group. The human body in all its different forms is full of shocks. This idea about cultural norms and psychological tendencies may lead people to believe that nose size and intimate anatomy are more closely associated than they actually are. From a psychological point of view, people may also believe these physical correlations because they want to find patterns in the world of attraction and human relationships, which can be very unpredictable. Small things can help people figure out how to handle the complexities of physical and mental connections. Although a small nose is only one part of a person's appearance, people may make assumptions about their sexuality and body type. While these assumptions may spark interesting discussions, the Stoics caution against accepting them as absolute truths. Additionally, people often associate a small nose with femininity and refinement. In modern times, especially in Western cultures, a small button-shaped nose is often considered beautiful. This idea reinforces the notion that a small nose signifies a delicate feminine appearance and, consequently, a delicate, small, intimate anatomy. But as the Stoics might remind us, beauty standards are fluid and subjective. What one culture values in terms of physical traits, another might see as unremarkable. It's also fascinating to think about how the nose fits into the bigger picture of facial features, harmony, and general beauty. Mental health. Many studies have shown that symmetry in the face is a big part of how we see beauty. A smaller nose can contribute to this symmetry, enhancing an individual's appearance and potentially hinting at more refined physical features elsewhere. However, this is only a minor aspect of a larger picture. Some people may still hold the belief that a woman's small nose correlates with her intimate areas, but it's crucial to question these beliefs. The human body is too complicated to fully understand through physical traits alone. Every woman is different, and while cultural and psychological factors may lead us to make links between certain traits, the Stoics would tell us to dig deeper. Putting aside simple assumptions, a woman's nose size may be intriguing and a topic of conversation, but it's only a small part of who she is as a whole. The idea that a smaller nose means more refined, intimate anatomy comes from both cultural beliefs and psychological tendencies. But as with anything else, it's important to go into this with an open mind and know that a person's whole being is not defined by a single physical trait. Each woman is different, and her unique traits tell us a lot more about her than a single trait, like nose size. Part 2. What delicate hands have meant in different times and places. People often perceive women with soft hands as more elegant. Grace and refinement. People often perceive women with smaller, more delicate hands as embodying a sense of gentleness and femininity that transcends their physical appearance. However, some people think that smaller, more delicate hands might be signs of certain traits in other parts of the body, especially in the intimate anatomy. Science does not support this idea. Many cultural beliefs and psychological folklore still emphasize this idea, demonstrating people's continued interest in the connections between different body parts. Stoics, who were known for being able to observe both nature and people, probably didn't just see hands as physical traits. They also saw them as symbols of how people interact with life. From a Stoic point of view, hands are how we shape our environment and express ourselves. Some people think that smaller, more delicate hands can show a more subtle, controlled way of living, like being careful with what you say or being mindful. However, when it comes to interpreting body features, others suggest that smaller hands could indicate a more refined or smaller body overall, akin to a smaller hand. This belief comes from the bigger idea that smaller physical traits in one part of the body tend to match up with similarly fine or delicate traits in other parts of the body. However, it's important to be careful and balanced when thinking about these ideas. People often draw connections between various aspects of a person's appearance, yet it's crucial to acknowledge that each woman is unique, and her hands could convey one narrative, while other parts of her body convey a different one. A person's hands can also tell you a lot about their attitude and mood, in addition to their physical traits. Some women with delicate hands might give off an air of gentility and reserve, but that doesn't mean they are shy or passive. Hands can also be very expressive, showing everything from confidence to sensuality through small movements. Whether a woman is hands-on and active or prefers a softer, more reserved approach to life, her hands are often the first to show who she really is. For a woman who hasn't been physically intimate in a long time, her delicate hands may have extra symbolic meanings. They may show the restraint and control she's practiced over time, as well as the careful boundaries she's kept. Her hands may show the tension between desire and caution. She is torn between wanting to connect with you and needing to maintain her space. Pay attention to how she uses her hands when you talk to her. If she's more open and expressive with them or keeps them close to her body, you can get a sense of her comfort level and emotional state. Also, be aware of the small, often unnoticed ways that hands can show a woman's wants or doubts. A light touch on the arm, a brush of her fingers against yours, or even the way she holds something can tell you a lot more than words ever could. Sometimes a woman might not even be aware that she is attracted to you. Use these small, sensitive movements to show that she is interested in or attracted to you. The Stoics would advise us to observe without hastily drawing conclusions. Like other body parts, hands reveal what's inside, but not everything. The soft hands of a woman may show a lot about her, from how she looks to how she feels. But the important thing is to just watch her without judging. Be patient, and pay attention to what she says and does, as well as the subtleties of her body language. This will help you get to know her better than just the superficial things that catch your eye. In the end, a woman's delicate hands are only one part of the bigger, more complex picture that makes up her essence. Even though her hands may show you small details about her body or her inner self, you should be sensitive and know that every woman is different, and their hands, like their hearts, will tell their story in their own time and in their own way. Chapter 3 explores the significance of gaps in teeth. There's something undeniably beautiful about a woman with gaping teeth. While this might seem like an odd way to look at other parts of the body, cultural beliefs and folklore have long linked gap teeth with certain sexy traits. For example, women with gap teeth are thought to have smaller 6 areas, which has been a topic of interest in many discussions about feminine features and body language from a Stoic point of view that values observation and reflection. We can view every part of the human body as a potential reflection of the individual's inner self. The Stoics would have been interested in how gap teeth might fit into the bigger story of understanding human traits. While they might not have concurred with the notion that gap teeth directly correlate with intimate anatomy, they would have comprehended the inclination of individuals to derive significance from seemingly insignificant details and characteristics. Gap teeth would have continued to distinguish each person without being linked to other body parts. Why have people associated gap teeth with private parts of the body? This belief may stem from a deeper cultural interest in symmetry and proportion. Many societies associate conventional beauty with a perfectly aligned smile. On the other hand, gapped teeth can create an imbalance, leading some individuals to question their own misalignments or the unique characteristics of their bodies, particularly their intimate anatomy. For instance, people often associate smallness with neatness, refinement, and control, all of which have historically been associated with femininity and attraction. From a psychological perspective, gapped teeth can pique people's curiosity and fascination. People naturally gravitate towards what is different or unusual, and gapped teeth are a rare trait. People may begin to wonder if other parts of their body also possess unique or unusual traits. For some, this curiosity extends to the idea that a woman with gapped teeth might also have more delicate, smaller, intimate anatomy. This idea of a link between physical traits is based more on cultural mythology and psychological associations than on any scientific fact. However, it shows how people have long tried to find patterns in the body by making connections between different physical traits. The Stoics would remind us that while it's natural to look for meaning in small things, we shouldn't let assumptions cloud our judgment. We should praise every woman for her uniqueness, even if she has gapped teeth. In today's society, many people love gap teeth as a part of their natural beauty, viewing them as a sign of individuality and charm. Women who have gap teeth often show them off with pride, seeing them not as flaws but as important parts of their looks. The thought that gapped teeth could mean anything about intimate anatomy doesn't seem as important in today's world, where physical diversity is praised and individuality is valued over. Even though it stems from cultural curiosity and conformity, some people still believe that gap teeth are linked to smaller, intimate areas, but it's important to remember that this link is based on myth and opinion, rather than any scientific fact. Today, gap teeth truly represent a woman's personality and confidence, transcending physical appearance and influencing her overall sense of self. Ultimately, the connection between gap teeth and private anatomy remains an intriguing cultural concept. This is just one example of how people attempt to understand the body by examining its external appearance. It's straightforward to be interested in these connections. It's crucial to keep in mind that a single trait cannot encapsulate the human body and its inhabitants. For example, a woman's smile, gapped teeth or not, only shows a small part of her story. Similarly, these beliefs only reflect a small portion of our perceptions of femininity and sexuality. Chapter 4 talks about how the shape of a woman's cheeks affects her looks. For a long time, people have thought that women with fuller, bigger cheeks tend to have smaller 6 areas. This idea, along with many others about the body, has been around for a long time. People still believe that certain facial traits can reveal more private parts of the body. These connections continue to influence the perception of women in certain cultures. Despite the lack of scientific evidence supporting beauty and sexuality, the Stoics have always held these beliefs. Those who were intrigued by the interconnections between the mind and body might have noticed this. Physical traits were not only signs of beauty but also of a person's health and vitality. Studies have linked looking younger to having fuller lips, by extension, a fertile look. The idea that these women might have smaller, more refined, intimate anatomy has become common knowledge. This oversimplifies how much people want to find meaning in their bodies and use them to express other parts of themselves. There's no scientific basis for this link, but it does show a larger psychological tendency to connect bodies with certain ideas of femininity. People often assume that a woman with fuller cheeks appears softer, potentially leading to the assumption that her private parts are also soft or small. This idea isn't unique to modern times. These kinds of views have influenced everything from the portrayal of women in art and sculpture to the perception of their ideal appearance throughout history. The assumption that having bigger cheeks equates to having a smaller waist is another example of how people use physical traits to make assumptions about the body, often without solid evidence to support them. This notion also contributes to people's curiosity. Measure and symmetry. People often perceive women with larger cheeks as possessing a more compact and refined intimate area due to our innate tendency to perceive balance in nature. Symmetry has long been associated with beauty, and this subconscious association between facial structure and body composition continues to influence how people perceive one another, especially when it comes to attractiveness and femininity. While these ideas are certainly intriguing, it's important to remember that every woman's body is unique. Just because a woman has fuller cheeks doesn't mean that her intimate anatomy will follow a particular pattern the Stoics would remind us to observe without judgment. Recognizing that beauty manifests in various forms and that physical traits only provide a partial picture, they would likely contend that such beliefs are merely distractions from the more significant aspects of human connection, intellect, virtue, and character. After all, the Stoic approach to life prioritizes inequalities over external appearances. On a deeper level, the link between fuller cheeks and smaller intimate areas may also come from social norms. We've learned to connect certain body types and facial features with certain traits. In this instance, the perception of fuller cheeks as soft, feminine, and under control leads us to believe that these women also possess polished faces. People often don't notice how these cultural assumptions affect our thoughts and expectations about everything from dating choices to self-esteem. For example, the idea that fuller cheeks mean a smaller, intimate area is more of a cultural fascination than a scientific fact. However, like many other body-related myths, it continues to shape our ideas about beauty, femininity, and sexuality in subtle ways. This idea, whether it's true or not, gives us an intriguing look into how we think about the human body. This cultural lens demonstrates the connection between physical appearance and societal values, and how these values continue to influence our thoughts, behaviors, and perceptions of what makes someone attractive or desirable. Chapter 5 focuses on the physical appearance of thin ladies. One common belief about women's bodies is that slim women typically have smaller, intimate areas. Rooted in both cultural and psychological factors, this idea suggests that a woman's overall body composition can provide insight into her intimate anatomy. Particularly the persistent belief that slim women, with their lean frames and more compact figures, may also have smaller, more refined, intimate areas. People saw physical traits as indicators of overall health balance and harmony. A slim woman's body, often associated with control and restraint, might lead to the assumption that other aspects of her physical anatomy are similarly compact and refined culturally. The idea that slim women have smaller, intimate areas plays into broader societal norms about femininity and attraction. Slimness has long been associated with youth, vitality, and beauty, and many people assume that these traits extend to intimate anatomy. The leaner the frame, the smaller the intimate area. This belief still affects how we think about women's bodies on a psychological level. This belief may also stem from our natural desire to find patterns and links. We may perceive a thin woman's body as exemplifying efficiency and compactness, thereby forming the belief that her intimate anatomy follows a similar organization. The idea that being slim makes you more beautiful goes beyond just looks and affects how we think about a woman's private parts. Although it can be tempting to make assumptions about a woman's private parts based on her overall body shape, we should treat this idea with some doubt. The truth is much more complicated. Every woman's body is different, and being thin doesn't always mean having smaller intimate areas. In modern times, media and beauty standards have made the focus on being thin even stronger. People often portray slim women as the epitome of femininity. This makes people think that slim women are perfect in every way, including their intimate anatomy. However, as the Stoics would assert, appearances can be misleading. In the end, the idea that slim women have smaller intimate areas is more of a cultural assumption than a scientific fact. While it may be interesting to think about body composition this way, it's important to remember that every woman is different, and no single physical trait can define her overall essence or intimate anatomy. Chapter 6. Breast Size and Body Characteristics. The connection between a woman's breast size and other intimate parts of her body is one of the most talked about topics. For example, when a woman has small breasts, there's a belief that she might also have a leaner, more compact frame. This belief also extends to assumptions about her intimate anatomy. One common belief is that women with small breasts may also have smaller, tighter vaginas. Generations have passed down this idea, but it's more of a cultural law than a scientific fact. Stoic philosophers, who valued self-control and observation, may have been intrigued but wary of this theory. They believed that the human body was a physical vessel, and that a person's outer appearance could give clues about their health or habits, but they wouldn't have relied too heavily on these ideas. Rather than focusing on superficial traits like breast size, they would argue that deeper interactions and observations are necessary to truly understand a person's physical, emotional, and spiritual state. Focusing on outer characteristics to draw conclusions about intimate areas would miss the point of looking for a person's flaws and virtues. While some people think that smaller breasts mean a smaller intimate anatomy, this belief is likely based on societal norms that link small breasts with being slim, young, and having a more refined body in general. Because women with small breasts tend to have leaner bodies, people apply this assumption to other parts of the body, including the intimate ones. In particular, there's a belief that a woman with smaller breasts will have a tighter or more refined vagina, as if body proportions must follow a consistent and predictable pattern. From a psychological point of view, this belief may stem from the way people tend to connect body parts to make a coherent whole. People often perceive small breasts as a symbol of femininity. A smaller, more delicate vagina, in a similar but less obvious way, is also considered a sign of that gentle femininity. The emphasis on size in culture extends beyond physical appearance. These links go beyond breasts and into how people see women's private anatomy. They are not based on science but on deeply held cultural ideas about what it means to be feminine. They stay strong because they fit with long-held ideas about women's bodies. Society often associates bigger body parts, such as breasts, hips, or thighs, with fertility and sensuality, while it views smaller body parts as refined and in control, which is one reason this view has persisted. For example, women with small breasts are seen as people often think that women are more reserved or less overtly sexual, which makes them think that their intimate anatomy is also more cautious or compliant. This stereotype doesn't always hold up under close inspection, though, because every woman's body is different. No amount of outside observation can accurately predict the specifics of someone's intimate features, and this is an area where myths tend to prevail over reality. It's also important to remember that fashion and beauty standards have affected these perceptions throughout history. Through the years, different body types have been popular. For instance, during the era of larger, curvier bodies, people often viewed women with small breasts as unfeminine. Nowadays, people admire slim, lean bodies. Regardless of the era, the fashion industry, media, and even social circles perpetuate the common assumption that small breasts correlate with smaller intimate anatomies. Even when there's no basis for these assumptions, they persist. At the end of a day, the Stoic approach would remind us that we cannot fully understand someone's character or physicality based solely on outward traits like breast size. While these beliefs may persist, they don't reflect the complexity of the human body. A woman with small breasts is no less feminine, sensual, or vital than one with a larger chest. While society often draws connections between breast size and other intimate features, these assumptions are more based on cultural preferences than any inherent truths. The Stoics would tell us to look past such shallow opinions and realize that we can't fully understand a woman's true essence by only looking at her body. People's bodies are complex and unique reflections of their lives. Reducing them to simple stereotypes takes away from the depth of who they are. Chapter 7. Understanding the B leg and its relationship. In the ongoing quest to understand the human body, the concept of the bleed structure has garnered significant attention. This term describes the shape and position of a woman's legs, which have a slight outward curve that creates a B shape when viewed from the front or side. It's not often used. Some people believe that women with these leg shapes tend to have smaller six-packs or private areas, which is similar to other physical traits we've talked about in earlier chapters. Stoics, who were always keenly aware of and fascinated by details, would likely have taken a keen interest in such details. Stoics believed that the body could reveal things about a person's inner state, but they also warned against making snap judgments. In the case of the B leg, the Stoics would probably agree that while this might be an intriguing feature, it's not always a sign of deeper truths about a woman's body or intimate anatomy. The idea that a woman with a B leg might have a smaller intimate area comes from the same psychological tendencies that drive other body-related beliefs, just like people look at small noses, gapped teeth, or slim figures as signs of a woman's physical traits. The B leg structure has become another topic of interest. This belief is based on larger societal ideas about symmetry, proportion, and balance. People perceive a woman with B legs as possessing a similarly refined intimate area. This belief may have more to do with cultural preferences than biology, but it reflects our deep-seated desire to find patterns in the human form. We like to think that certain features, like a woman's legs, can reveal bigger truths about her whole body. The B leg's elegant curve becomes a symbol of feminine refinement, and this idea carries over to assumptions about intimate anatomy. There's also a psychological side to this belief that's worth looking into. People often think that women with B legs are more graceful and poised in their movements. The idea that their bodies are compact, controlled, and proportionate, which in turn leads to the assumption that their intimate anatomy is similarly structured, links to this sense of grace. It's important to remember, though, that these links between leg structure and intimate anatomy are largely speculative. There is no scientific evidence to support the idea that women with B legs have smaller intimate areas than women with other leg shapes. However, this myth lives on because it appeals to our desire to understand the human body in simple visual terms. From a Stoic perspective, it's more beneficial to concentrate on the body's overall health, strength, and vitality instead of narrow physical traits such as the B leg. While it's tempting to draw conclusions from these visible markers, they don't provide a complete picture of a woman's body or her intimate areas. Ultimately, the link between B legs and smaller intimate anatomy is another example of how we try to make sense of the human form through patterns and physical clues. While the idea may be intriguing, it's crucial to exercise skepticism and acknowledge that each woman's body is unique, devoid of simple rules or assumptions. The Stoics would tell us that the only way to truly understand something is to look past how it looks and see how complicated the human experience really is. It's clear that the human body, and women's bodies in particular, have a lot of meaning in terms of how we see them and how we understand different parts of their bodies, from small faces to breast size to leg structure and everything in between. People have long thought that there are links between outward traits and inner anatomy. But as we've looked into these ideas, it's become clear that these links are often based on cultural assumptions rather than scientific facts. According to the Stoics, who had a deep understanding of human nature and behavior, we should carefully observe but never judge too quickly. They believe that true wisdom comes from understanding the whole, not just the parts. A woman's body is complex and multifaceted, and every trait, big or small, is part of a bigger story of who she is. As tempting as it is to reduce someone to physical features or myths, we must remember that every woman is unique and that no analysis can capture her core. The beliefs and myths about B that we discussed today may be fascinating, but they do not represent absolute truths. Instead, they remind us that humans seek patterns and meaning where none exist. What can we learn from all of this? We can gain a deeper understanding of the uniqueness of women's bodies and remember to treat these features with both interest and respect. If a woman has small breasts, gapped teeth, B legs, or any other identifying feature, these are just parts of her body, not who she is. The Stoics would tell us to focus on what lies beneath the surface and to value character and inner strength above all else. As we wrap up, I encourage you to think critically about the ideas we've talked about today. Remember to observe but also to question. Look beyond surface traits and respect the full complexity of the women in your life. If you liked this episode, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments section below. We want to hear your thoughts and stories about this topic. To fully understand the human body, inside and out, we must continue our talk. After watching, take care of yourself and others. Until next time.